Welcome to Diane's Art Cart, and today we're going to do something called a monoprint, and it's just using either paintbrushes or your fingers to draw an image and then using paint and paper to make the image, to have the image come out. It's really fun, and this is good for any age group, early intervention, any kind of neurotypical typical learner, and it's a very fun, it can be a messy activity, and it's okay if you get messy because all you have to do is wash your hands when you're finished. And if you don't like getting messy, it's going to be okay. All you have to do is wipe the paint or glue, whatever you get on your fingers, onto some of the material. Speaking of material, the material that we're using today is either any kind of paper. I'm going to be using white paper. My assistant is going to be using a yellowish manila paper. I'm going to be using a basic dollar shop baking tray. I'm going to be using some oil pastels, some crayons. I have some fun shaped crayons and regular shaped crayons, 3 different kinds of paintbrushes, a nice jumbo one, a thinner one, and a very thin one that you can probably get from any art kit. Never throw these out. They're good for getting dust off of items or gluing or painting or whatever. They're just fun to have. And we're also going to be using paint. I'm going to be using white paint and green paint and possibly some liquid glue and some glitter. But when we use glitter, we have to use it very carefully and not just pour it everywhere because it can be very messy and it's hard to get out of different things. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be drawing. We're going to be using some white paper and some yellow manila paper. You can use newspaper, any kind of paper that you would like to use. And I'm just going to start with a crayon. If you liked, and I'm just going to trace my shape, which is a rectangle, and I'm going to trace it, and I'm going to keep tracing it because it's fun to see how small. I'm going to change color. I'm going to use one of my fancy crayons. How small I can make my rectangle. And if you like to use markers, that's great. If you use markers, make sure you use your markers first and then you use your crayons or your oil pastels, because in an oil pastel, since its base is oil, it will dry out your marker, and that would be a shame. You never want to dry out a perfectly good marker. And crayons too. Crayons are made of wax, so you don't want to draw a marker on top of wax crayon because it will ruin your marker. I'm going to use my fancy rainbow crayon right now, and it's coming out red and orange, but I'm going to turn it over. Now it's blue, and I'm going to keep drawing just a little bit more, and I think I'm ready to start to paint. So when I'm going to paint, I move my drawing to the side, and then I take my paint and I pour a little bit. Oh, would you like to see my drawing? There's my drawing. It's different colors. As you can see, I used yellow. I used a yellow oil pastel. I used a green oil pastel. I used my orange pointy finger crayon. And this is my assistant's drawing. She made some nice swirls. So you can do whatever you feel like doing on your drawing. Now I'm going to move it to the side, and I'm going to take out the paint. Okay, I'm going to pour a little paint. A little paint. Where would you like your paint?
In the middle, please.
In the middle. Okay, and I'm going to also use green paint. It's always fun to use 2 different colors that work well together. And now I'm going to paint them. I think I'm going to use my yellow jumbo hair. And now the cool thing is when you add different colors, the color changes. So I'm making like some really fun swirls here. And as you can see, I'm leaving some spaces without paint. Because when I make my print, I want to see what happens when I leave it space. Now I'm gonna try my very first painting on top of my drawing. So I'm gonna put it down. I'm gonna use my hands to press down. And sometimes when this happens, you get very cool little designs and little bumps on your drawing.
You could also use the back of the paintbrush.
So this is what my painting looks like. Do you remember that I didn't paint? I left some spaces without paint. So like that one is the same as, that space. So if I flip it around, maybe it looks like something else, right? Okay, and the other thing is my assistant is using the back of her paintbrush to draw with, which is very, very fun. I'm going to add a little more green and show you what that looks like when you do something like that. It's fun. I like it. I'm going to add a little glue also. And because I mentioned before something about the glitter, use a little bit of glitter, just a little bit in my hand. And what I could do is I could sprinkle it, and you do it on top of the baking sheet so that it doesn't get everywhere. Just a little bit. And actually, a little goes a very long way. I'm going to use my fingers to paint with now. And I'm going to do some movement with my fingers. And then I'm going to do what my assistant was doing. She was using the back, right? She was using the back of the paintbrush. I'm going to do the same thing. And I always put something on my table because I'm a messy person. I don't mind getting messy, but I don't want to have a big cleanup. So whenever you're doing artwork and painting, you always need to have something to cover your paper with. I'm going to try this, and I'm going to do this. And I think this is going to be my last one. And let's see what happens. And when you dry it, just let it air out, and that's it. Let's see. Ooh, cool. So I made some very interesting designs. And if you turn it this way, it's going to look different. If you turn it this way, so every way that you turn it, it's going to look different. And let's see what it looks like on my board. That's what it looks like on my baking dish.
This is what it looks like for mine.
And this is what it looks like on a different color paper. And you could still see the drawings underneath, all the lines. And if you look closely, I don't know if you can see it, but you can. You see there's little bumps, and that will dry really cool like that. So that's the cool thing about doing monoprinting. You can pretty much do whatever you want. And it looks like whatever you want it to look like. If you liked what I did, please subscribe. And click on like. And I hope you have a great rest of your painting day. Thank you.